We'd like to discuss a transition plan, Judith. It's just not working anymore. The words hung in the conference room like a bad smell, unmistakable and impossible to ignore. I sat at the head of the table I had personally selected when we'd moved into these offices 8 years ago. My knuckles turned white as I gripped my coffee mug. The one with our original logo, my design, now faded from hundreds of washings. My name is Judith Monroe. I'm 58 years old, and 15 years ago I co-founded Brightwave Creative in Madison, Wisconsin with 2 college friends. We started with 3 desks and a printer in a converted storage room above a coffee shop. Now we occupied the entire 6th floor of a downtown building with 36 employees and clients across the Midwest. Or rather, I had built it. Frank retired 5 years ago. Thomas left to teach at the university 3 years after that. I stayed. I brought in younger partners like Cameron Vance and Olivia Harmon. I mentored them, shared the client relationships I'd cultivated over a decade, taught them everything they knew about strategic marketing. Now they sat across from me, expressions a mix of rehearsed sympathy and poorly disguised impatience. Cameron's expensive watch glinted as he fidgeted. Olivia's fresh from the salon hair fell perfectly as she tilted her head with practiced concern. The industry is changing rapidly, Cameron continued. We need to present a more contemporary image. Contemporary, I repeated. The word tasted bitter. Exactly, Olivia chimed in, relieved I'd caught on so quickly. More modern, more youthful, more in tune with emerging trends and digital native sensibilities. I had pioneered our expansion into digital marketing before either of them had graduated college. I'd secured the Harrington account, our biggest client, when Cameron was still posting party photos on Facebook. I'd developed the Legacy Forward campaign that won us 3 industry awards last year. But I had committed the unforgivable sin in advertising. I had aged. The lines around my eyes had deepened. My once chestnut hair was now silver gray. Stylishly cut, but undeniably gray. My hands that had typed thousands of pitches, designed hundreds of campaigns, shaken countless clients' hands, showed every year of hard work. We're prepared to offer you a buyout package, Cameron said, sliding a folder across the table. We think it's quite generous considering. I opened it without reacting. The offer? Barely a third of what my equity stake was actually worth. Through the conference room windows, I could see the lake, where just last summer we'd hosted a company sailing day. I remembered how they all applauded when I announced our best quarter ever. I closed the folder and saw something I wasn't supposed to. A branding mock-up on Olivia's tablet. They'd already started redesigning the company image without me. I'll need time to review this, I said, standing with all the dignity I could muster. Of course, Olivia replied, not quite meeting my eyes. Take the weekend. I nodded and walked out, feeling their relief at my back. Relieved I hadn't made a scene, relieved I hadn't cried, relieved they were one step closer to erasing me. As I drove home, memories flooded in, of all I'd sacrificed for Brightwave. Vacations cut short, weekends working, canceled dates. A marriage that ended in part because Gregory couldn't understand my dedication. You're building something beautiful, he said during our last real conversation, but you stopped building us. He'd been right. I'd chosen the company, and now the company was choosing not to have me. That night, my house felt particularly empty. I poured a glass of Cabernet, stepped onto the back porch, and stared at the garden I never had time to tend. The irony wasn't lost on me. All the time I gave them, and now I had nothing but time. I didn't sleep. At 3 a.m., I was in my home office, digging through files, reviewing contracts, scanning every legal document I'd signed. By dawn, I had made 3 discoveries. 1. I still personally owned the trademarked Authentic Legacy Forward Thinking, our most successful campaign slogan, now the company tagline. I registered it under my name 2 years ago. 2. Our 4 biggest clients, Harrington Financial, Westfield Manufacturing, Crescent Healthcare, and Northern Outfitters, All had contract clauses requiring notification if the agency experienced management changes. The contracts named me as their lead. Or 3. I never signed a non-compete. In the early days, we were too busy building the business to worry about legalese, and no one thought I'd ever leave. The sun was rising as I made coffee. My mind, surprisingly calm. I remembered something my grandmother used to say. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away with grace, and then build something better. I considered fighting, lawsuits, demanding full value, making noise. But that would give them more of my energy, and they'd already taken enough. Instead, I did something unexpected. I signed their lowball offer, cleaned out my office over the weekend, sent a brief email thanking the staff, and on Monday morning, I handed over the signed papers, shook their hands, and said, "I truly wish you the best." The look on their faces, that was my first win. "You did what?" My sister Eleanor nearly shouted over the phone. "Judith, they completely undervalued your stake. You built that company." I watered the hanging basket on my porch, garden gloves still on. It had been 3 weeks since I left Brightwave. My garden was thriving. I was sleeping again. "I know exactly what I built, Ellie," I said calmly. "And I know exactly what it's worth." "Then why?" "Because fighting would have meant staying in their story. I'm more interested in writing my own." I checked my email. One new message. Harold Westfield, CEO of Westfield Manufacturing. "Judith, I was surprised to hear about your departure. The young woman they've assigned to our account seems knowledgeable, but I'd prefer to discuss our upcoming rebrand with someone who understands our company. Are you consulting independently?" I smiled. Harold was the third such message that week. I hadn't reached out to anyone. Word travels fast in Madison. That afternoon, I met with my attorney Patricia to finalize paperwork for my new venture. Silverline Strategies. "Subtle but pointed," Patricia said. "I thought so. No solicitation of Brightwave clients, right?" "No need, they're already calling me." "Just be careful," she warned. "Cameron and Olivia strike me as people who bruise easily when things don't go their way." They wanted youth and energy. Now they have it. Whether that's what the clients want? That's another story. On the drive home, I passed the Brightwave office. Through the windows, I saw Cameron leading a meeting, gesturing with enthusiasm. The original logo was gone. They'd replaced the original logo with something more contemporary. All lowercase letters, and a gradient color scheme that would look outdated in 18 months. They'd also started using my tagline, "Authentic Legacy Forward Thinking," in all their new marketing materials. I wondered if they even bothered to check who actually owned it. My phone rang through the car speakers. It was Harold Westfield again. "Judith, I've been thinking. Rather than just consulting on the rebrand, would you consider taking over our entire marketing strategy? The presentation your replacement sent over this morning was, let's just say, it showed a fundamental misunderstanding of our company values." I smiled as I pulled into my driveway. "I'd be happy to discuss that, Harold. Why don't you come by my new office tomorrow? There's something called Silverline Strategies I'd like to tell you about." My new office space was intentionally different from Brightwave's sleek, open-concept design. I'd leased a converted Victorian house on Madison's east side. Hardwood floors, large windows, a wraparound porch. Clients could sit with coffee and talk marketing in wicker chairs, surrounded by framed examples of my most award-winning campaigns. Within 6 weeks, I'd hired a small, sharp team. 2 experienced designers who had freelanced for me in the past, a brilliant content strategist overlooked at a larger agency, and an office manager who ran everything like clockwork. We were small, but focused. We served high-value clients who preferred strategy over flashy trends. One afternoon, I was reviewing projections when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Jessica, a junior designer still at Brightwave. I had mentored her since her intern days. "Did you know they're using your tagline for the Belmont Hotel pitch? Olivia's presenting it as the centerpiece of the campaign tomorrow." I set my phone down. Not surprised, but disappointed. I had been waiting to see how far they'd go. Now I knew. Dorothy, I called to my office manager. Would you ask Patricia to send that cease and desist letter? It's time. Right away, she replied with a knowing smile. That afternoon I presented Silverline's strategy to Harold and his executive team at Westfield Manufacturing. When I finished, the room was silent for a beat. Then Harold said, "This is exactly what we've been trying to articulate for months. You've captured our heritage while positioning us for the future." "That's what experience brings," I replied. "Knowing that innovation doesn't mean abandoning what made you successful in the first place." As we wrapped up, Harold looked uncomfortable. I should mention, Cameron's been calling me daily, rather persistent young man. "That's to be expected," I said evenly. "You're an important client. We've already notified Brightwave we're terminating our contract. I just thought you should know, they're not taking it well." Cameron implied you may have violated some agreement by working with us. I smiled. "I assure you, everything I'm doing is completely above board, but I appreciate the heads up." When I returned to the office, Dorothy met me at the door, looking serious. "Cameron Vance is here. He's quite agitated." I found him pacing in our conference room. His tailored suit looked wilted. His face was flushed. "This is how you repay us? Stealing our clients?" "I haven't stolen anyone, Cameron," I replied calmly. "Clients make their own decisions about which agency best serves their needs." Westfield was with Brightwave for 12 years. "No," I corrected. "Westfield was with me for 12 years. There's a difference which you're now discovering." His composure cracked. "Harrington Financial is reviewing their options. Crescent Healthcare hasn't returned our calls in 2 weeks. This isn't coincidence." "Perhaps they're not responding to your new, contemporary approach," I said, his eyes narrowed. "We were trying to do the right thing, Judith. The industry is changing. Clients want fresh perspectives, digital natives." "Apparently not all clients," I interrupted. "Some still value experience, strategic thinking, long-standing relationships." I gestured to the chair across from me. "Now, is there something specific you wanted to discuss? I have a rather full afternoon." He stayed standing. "We want you to stop using Brightwave in your... Stop mentioning that you founded our company when you pitched to clients." I couldn't help but laugh. "You want me to erase 15 years of my professional life because it's inconvenient for you?" "That's not how reality works, Cameron. We'll take legal action if necessary," he snapped. "I look forward to that discussion," I replied. "Especially when your lawyer explains how you're using my trademark tagline without permission." The color drained from his face. "What are you talking about?" "Check your inbox," I said. "Your counsel should have received our cease and desist about 20 minutes ago." The following weeks brought developments Cameron and Olivia hadn't anticipated. First, Harrington Financial, nearly 30% of Brightwave's revenue, terminated their contract and signed with Silverline. Their CEO, Victoria Harrington, even called me herself. "That young woman they sent to our meeting tried to explain to my board why we need to appeal to millennials," she laughed. "Judith, we're a wealth management firm. Our clients are 55 to 70 years old with portfolios over $2 million. Then came Northern Outfitters, whose marketing director said they needed a firm that respected tradition while helping them evolve. Then Crescent Healthcare signed a 2-year exclusive contract with Silverline. By the end of month 3, 7 of Brightwave's major clients had made the switch. I didn't take joy in their losses. These were clients I had built deep relationships with, people I understood. I was simply continuing to serve them, now under my own banner. What did bring me joy was creating something authentic to my values. Silverline was different. We limited our client roster for personal attention. We hired based on talent and fit, not youth. Our team ranged from 24 to 67 years old, each bringing unique strengths. One Tuesday morning, Patricia called with an update. Brightwave's attorneys responded. They're claiming the tagline was created as work for hire and belongs to them. They can claim whatever they want, I said. I have the trademark registration and proof I created it before I ever brought it to the company. They're also threatening to countersue for client interference. I sighed. Are they really prepared to argue in court that clients left because I interfered, rather than because they pushed out the person those clients trusted? Patricia chuckled. That's basically what I told them, in legalese. I think they'll back down on that front. But they're digging in on the tagline. Apparently, they've already built their branding around it. That was short-sighted of them, I said. Keep me posted. That afternoon, an unexpected visitor arrived. Olivia Harmon. No appointment. Less polished. Less confident. Do you have a moment? She asked. Of course, I said, gesturing to the chair across from me. She fidgeted with her watch. I wanted to speak with you directly, away from lawyers and from Cameron. I'm listening. We're struggling, she admitted. The client departures hit us hard, the rest are nervous. We're not landing new accounts. We overextended, took on a big lease, hired too fast. She took a deep breath. Cameron thought we could just replace your relationships with new business. I didn't point out how flawed that logic was. From her face, she knew. What are you here for, Olivia? To see if there's a path forward. A collaboration, maybe. Or referrals. Or... She trailed off. Even she knew how unlikely it sounded. I'm not interested in rescuing Brightwave, I said calmly. You and Cameron made a calculated decision to remove me because you thought my age was a liability. Now, you're living with the consequences of that miscalculation. Her composure cracked. We never meant to. Get caught? I finished for her. Or realize that experience actually has value in a business built on trust and relationships? She stared at her hands, silent. I wish you luck, Olivia. I truly do wish you luck, Olivia. But Silverline and Brightwave will continue on separate paths. The legal dispute over the tagline was resolved quickly. Once Brightwave's attorneys reviewed my documentation, they had no choice but to acknowledge my ownership of authentic legacy forward thinking. They had to pull their new website, redesign business cards and proposal templates, and rebuild their branding from scratch. The cost, both financially and in market credibility, was substantial. Meanwhile, Silverline continued to grow, but strategically. We weren't trying to be the biggest agency in Madison. We aimed to be the best for a very specific kind of client. 6 months in, we moved into a slightly larger space, but kept the warm, personal atmosphere that set us apart from the cold, corporate style of others. I was reviewing applications for a new strategic position when my phone rang. It was Eleanor. Have you seen the Business Journal this morning? No, why? There's an article about Brightwave. Cameron Vance is out as managing partner. I set down the application I'd been reading. That's unexpected. There's more. They've brought in someone from Chicago, Susan Blackwell, to right the ship. She's quoted saying they're refocusing on core strengths and rebuilding client trust. In other words, trying to fix the mess Cameron and Olivia made. I found the article online. It was clear. This strategic restructuring was likely the result of investors or bank lenders stepping in to salvage a crumbling agency. Photos showed their once busy office now sparsely occupied. Several desks were empty. I felt a complex mix of emotions. I didn't want Brightwave to fail. Many good people still worked there. People like Jessica, my former mentee and occasional coffee companion. On impulse, I called her. Jessica, it's Judith. I just read about the changes. Are you all right? A pause. It's been difficult. Cameron cleared out his office Friday. They've let go about a quarter of the staff. Were you affected? Not yet. But morale is terrible. Everyone's updating their resumes. I paused, then said, Jessica, we're hiring a junior art director at Silverline. Someone with digital skills and a fresh perspective, but who also values strategy. Would you be interested? She was stunned. After everything that happened, you'd consider hiring me? What happened with Cameron and Olivia wasn't your fault. I've always believed in your talent. 2 weeks later, Jessica joined Silverline. She became the bridge between youthful innovation and experienced wisdom, exactly what both agencies had needed all along. The irony wasn't lost on me. Cameron and Olivia pushed me out in pursuit of youth. In doing so, they lost their most loyal clients. Meanwhile, I built a team that embraced both experience and fresh thinking, attracting not just their clients, but also the emerging talents they had hoped to court. In a quiet moment, I realized something. My story wasn't about revenge. It was about authenticity. I didn't need to fight Cameron and Olivia's vision of the future. I just needed to build something better. Something that recognized the value of every stage of professional life, including my own. 1 year after my unceremonious exit from Brightwave, I received an invitation. The Madison Business Association wanted to honor me with their Lifetime Achievement Award at their annual gala. As I stood at the podium, looking out over Madison's business leaders, I saw so many familiar faces. Harold Westfield and Victoria Harrington at the front table, Jessica sitting with the Silverline team, beaming. Even Patricia, my lawyer, had come, despite her aversion to events in Nectar. In the back, I spotted Olivia, now managing partner of Brightwave. Our eyes met. I gave her a small nod. After a moment, she returned it. When I was asked to leave the company I founded at age 58, I began. I was told the industry needed a more contemporary image. My wrinkles and gray hair didn't fit the vision my younger partners had. My wrinkles and gray hair didn't fit the vision my younger partners had for the future. A murmur rippled through the audience. I could have fought. I could have sued. I could have made things messy and public, I continued. Instead, I chose to channel my energy into building something new. Something that embraces the value of experience while welcoming fresh perspectives. I gestured to our Silverline table, where my diverse, multi-generational team sat proudly. In just 1 year, Silverline Strategies has become one of the fastest-growing agencies in the region. We have a client waitlist that now extends 9 months. We've won multiple industry awards, expanded to 15 employees, and, most importantly, we've proven that effective marketing isn't about the age of the marketers. It's about understanding the needs of the clients and their customers. I paused. My eyes met Olivia's in the crowd. I want to thank my former partners for giving me the push I needed to build something authentic to my values. Sometimes the best opportunities come disguised as disappointments. The applause was thunderous. I accepted the award, a beautiful crystal sculpture that now sits in Silverline's reception area. A daily reminder that sometimes the most effective revenge is simply outshining those who underestimated you. 2 years after founding Silverline, I received a call from Susan Blackwell, the consultant who'd been brought in to salvage Brightwave. I'm not sure if you're aware, she began, but I've been authorized to explore potential merger opportunities for Brightwave. The investors feel the company might be stronger as part of another agency. I wasn't surprised. Despite Olivia's best efforts and Susan's guidance, Brightwave had never recovered from the client exodus and rebranding disasters. And you're calling me because? I asked, though I already knew. Silverline would be an ideal partner, she said. You understand the market. You've worked with many of our remaining clients, and your agency has the stable financial footing that Brightwave lacks. The irony was almost too perfect. The company that discarded me for being too old was now asking to be rescued by the agency I built because they had discarded me. I appreciate the call, Susan, I said carefully, but Silverline isn't looking to acquire other agencies at this time. We're growing organically, at a pace that allows us to maintain our culture and values. I understand, she replied, disappointed but not surprised. If you change your mind, I'll let you know, I said, but we both knew I wouldn't. After we hung up, I sat in my office looking out at the garden we'd planted behind the converted Victorian that houses Silverline. Late afternoon sunlight filtered through the trees. On the patio, two of my team members discussed a client pitch over coffee. I didn't feel satisfaction in Brightwave's struggles. What I felt was gratitude. Gratitude for the path that led me here. To a place where I could build something true to myself, surrounded by people who valued what I brought to the table, wrinkles and all. When I left Brightwave, I hadn't set out for revenge. I had simply refused to accept the narrative that my age made me less valuable. And in doing so, I wrote a new story. Not just for myself, but for everyone who has ever been told they were past their prime, when their best work was still ahead of them.